חכם אומר, אני לומד שתי הלכות היום, שתיים למחר, עד שאני לומדה כולה. Chacham says, I'm going to learn a couple of things today, a couple of things tomorrow, open-ended until I learn it all. So let's see what the rabbis are talking about with this. So we have the Chacham, who we said, right, knows a lot about a lot, and over time will build the intellectual rigor and confidence to string all those things together and utilize that chokhmah, right? He'll take the chokhmah that he learned in the issue of Sukkah, and he'll bring it to Tefillin, take the thing that he learned in the area of the Chumash, and bring it to relationships. It's all interconnected. It all comes from one source. It's all interconnected. And over time, you become very free-flowing in thought. So now the question comes up, how do you maximize the knowledge? And our rabbis take an unequivocal position, which is that a little bit every day is infinitely more valuable than a lot intermittently, right? So let's say what we're doing, God willing, right? What you're doing in your other classes, daily, a little bit of movement, the growth compounds. Whereas, let's say you do something, you do a class every Tuesday, right, for an hour, right? Every Tuesday for an hour is worth.
Let's back up.
Right, is worth.
Slow, steady.
Right, it's worth very little, slow, steady, slow slit. Take down 2 halachot, take down 2 new ideas, keep building. And then, I used to tell people, if you learn 10 minutes a day, 365 days, right? At the end of the year, you have 3,650 minutes of more knowledge. You're a different person. You're already a different person at the end of a month, in fact. That's reality when it's consistent. So slow and steady. That's the program. And hopefully the learning is structured in a way where each day is compounded on the last. Each day is building on the last. Oh, hi, Joe. How are you?
Hey,
Hi, Eric. Good morning. Each day is building on the previous. Great. All right. How are you?
good. And there's something to also this regular time each day,
And the regular time.
right?
Day.
Like
Very right.
actually do the same schedule.
Right. Kibiut. To learn kavua, kibiut, consistency has the absolute value. Okay. Let's do the next one. Joe, you want to read?
Heart of all who have wisdom in their hearts, I will give.
Right. Belev kol chacham lev natati chokhmah. What does this mean? Belev kol chacham lev, Eddie. Belev kol chacham lev natati chokhmah. In the heart of all who have wisdom in their heart, I will give wisdom. How would you explain this pasuk? By the way, versions of this are written about 28 times in the Chumash, 27 or 28 times. Belev kol chacham lev natati chokhmah.
The heart is saying, if you are open to learning, you will learn more.
Okay, so who is the natati? Who's giving to who? Good. Who's giving to who? Who's giving the chokhmah to who?
I would imagine rabbis giving it to the student.
Well, God, okay, good. God is talking to us. So now reframe it in your mind. How would you work it? First of all,
Put yourself out there
yeah,
with the hope of learning. You will put the efforts in, you'll do it. If you
Okay.
within you to do it, you'll do it. You'll be taken, kicking and screaming. Okay, you gotta go to school today.
okay.
Well, Ricky says you have to be there at 6 when you're out.
You don't get much. Right. Excellent. Okay.
But it's basically saying if God is saying to a person who has an open heart to learn, he will then give them more wisdom. And that's the way I look at it. Now,
Beautiful. Right on. So let's go at a few terms here. What does the term live or heart mean? But if you can, here again, stick with the Hebrew. The term live when it's used in a context of learning, means
Open.
Huh?
Open.
Your neshama,
your neshama, but a
Yeah.
little bit more specific.
when your thoughts when your thoughts, spiritual thoughts, is they always referred to as a level.
Okay,
You've
beautiful.
opened up the vessel, you've opened up your receiver.
Yeah, which one? Which vessel? So when we use the term live in the
Desire,
context
your
of
will.
learning Torah, we're talking about the place in us where where the intellect and emotion meet, and you have what we call emotional intelligence, right? Emotional intelligence. So this is, you see that you're going to see this term more and more as we move along some of this. You're going to see the term live or sechvi. Sechvi is the same thing as the live. So the live is, remember a number of years ago, they came out with major studies on the great value of emotional intelligence, right?
Mhm.
So what is emotional intelligence as opposed to intelligence? Intelligence is learning how to build the car. Emotional intelligence is learning how to manage life and therefore being able to utilize the skills of building the car. Okay, this is very important. It's very important. They did a major study in universities around the country a number of years ago. Maybe it was a long number of years ago, 30 plus years ago. And what they found was the following. I'm going to oversimplify the example just because of time. They found the following. Let's say Mr. Smith and Mr. Jones went to the same college, took the same courses with the same teachers, got the same grades, were hired by the same firm to do the same job. And Mr. Smith was very successful and Mr. Jones failed. It was an earthquake.
Mhm.
What are you talking about? Same college, same professor, same
Same
4.0,
intelligence.
same intelligence.
Two different people.
Beautiful, two different people. So what did that give birth to? It gave birth to the concept of emotional intelligence, which means that a person's sense of self, a person's sense of confidence, a person's ability to integrate life circumstances and people and
Awareness. of-
success and
awareness of
others,
situations.
all of that takes the mechanical intelligence
Mhm.
and it frames it, and it either enables it or it knocks it down, right? So they were placed in a very difficult situation. What are people paying for? You go to any university, you get all the technical skills, and so what? If the person is not built the right way inside, he can't make it. You taught him to be an engineer, and he knows how to take the engine apart, or he knows how to build the semiconductor, whatever it might be. But on an emotional level, he's not tooled, he's not built. So hence the term developed emotional intelligence.
You put those people in the back office.
Right, you bury
Back
him in the
office
back
people.
office, right? So Mark, you with me?
They're not customer
Yeah,
service.
Okay, so now what they were referencing is something we've been focused on for 3,500 years, which is the complete building of the individual, right? The complete development of the individual, the hardcore skills development, along with the character development, along with the life skills development. If someone knows how to learn Torah, but doesn't know how to manage his own life, is he going to be successful? Probably not. If a person knows how to learn Torah, doesn't know how to manage his marriage, is he going to be successful? Probably not. So the sechvi, or the heart, is the place where the intellect and the emotion related to intellect meet. And that's where all the good stuff happens. Good.
The difference of man and woman.
Yeah, there's a dramatic
No, I'm
difference.
saying man thinks logically, woman thinks emotion,
Okay, good,
right?
Yeah.
I'm saying similar.
yeah. So she's gonna get it right more than we are, we hold. No, not
She's
because
more.
we're married, per se.
Yeah, whatever it is.
Huh?
In other words, she'll ask a question that doesn't make sense, but it makes. Oh, kidding.
But it makes sense.
Right. Makes sense. We're recording this, but I'm not gonna share it with everyone. Mark, to your point, what is HaKadosh Baruch Hu adding here? So now we established that the place where all the major decisions are made is, and the meaningful decisions, is where the emotion and the intellect meet, right? It's not just emotion, it's knowledged emotion, it's informed emotion. Again, it's life skills as an example, right? That someone approaches with their head and their heart. So that's why we call it the sechvi, or the heart. God didn't say, "Ubamoach kol chacham moach natati chokhmah ubesechel," which mean the pure and simple, so to speak, intellect. He didn't say that. He didn't say in the sechel, in the moach of a person who has knowledge. I'm going to give knowledge. He said in the lev. Yeah.
So would you include in this emotional aspect, desire?
Absolutely. Ambition, of course. Without that, huh?
How do you teach that?
So that how do you teach ambition and risk and a risk orientation? So it starts by enabling the person to have a very resilient sense of self-confidence and self-love. That's the platform.
But doesn't Ricky, as also a person who's a learned person, needs to learn how to listen?
For sure. Yes, absolutely.
Don't listen, and if you don't learn to listen and observe, like in my business, you never get, like in my business, if I go up against somebody who's went to Harvard, got the best, like you said, best grades, best this, best that, but that person, because he doesn't have like the right emotional feelings, right? He can't observe the room. He can't observe the various nuances that, the potential client has. And that's like, no, that's like street
Sure,
smart.
but you have to certainly see.
Yeah. He can't, doesn't know how to listen.
So when we pray in the morning, we say Sechli Bina B'Hadin.
Right? So we're going to start learning that.
Intelligence to discern between.
Beautiful. David's hitting it. We're going to start that either tomorrow or next
Pray
week.
for that every day.
Give the ability to our sechvi,
Mhm.
the heart,
Discern.
emotion, and intellect meet, the havchin, to distinguish between night and day. By the way, what are we talking about? Distinguish what between night and day? What does my emotional intelligence have to distinguish between night and day? Let's learn another
What's
few other
right,
concepts.
what's-
We always go
Oh, right.
into other stuff.
It's not night and day. Night and day is symbolic of the light, good and bad.
It's yes, but it's more symbolic of the night or more directly the evening, but we're going to use the night for this purpose. The night suggests a lack of clarity.
Right.
Darkness in the literal sense, darkness in the intellectual sense, right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave my emotional intelligence the ability to distinguish between lack of clarity and clarity. Good. We're going to learn that in depth, God willing, next week, starting next week. But going back to your point, Joe, if we don't build in our children and in our students, if we don't build a resilient sense of self, a resilient sense of self-love and self-confidence, they can't be ambitious. They can't be risk takers. And when I speak to parents, young parents in particular, I tell them, people have this thing. I want my child to be happy. That's my job as a parent. Wrong. I want my child to be successful. That's my job as a parent. Wrong. Your child is going to be happy.
Right.
If your child, what's that?
It's lower on your list. It's not wrong.
No, I'm going to tell you why it's wrong. I'm going to tell you why it's wrong. It's very high on my list, happiness, right? It's very high. I'll tell you why it's wrong. Because self-love and self-confidence brings happiness. Self-love and self-confidence brings success. That's how it works. that there's no other way to get there. So the biggest job that we have, and
It
I've said
also
it,
brings arrogance.
huh?
It also brings arrogance.
Well.
No, it doesn't. Very good.
Self-confidence.
Excellent, excellent, Eddie.
No?
It will never bring arrogance because it will never, ever bring arrogance. Arrogance is a dearth of self-love. It's a lack of self-love. Confident people and secure people are never arrogant. Who's arrogant? The person who's has a huge confidence deficiency. So has to strut his stuff, has to try to impose his will on people.
Narcissist.
That's the second person. What, Mark?
A narcissist is a.
Yeah,
is just-
that's your narcissist.
Right.
Person who has a robust and powerful sense of self, he doesn't care if you notice him. He could care less.
Donald Trump.
He could care less, right? Because he knows who he is. Who's the person who acts in an arrogant way? The person who needs the attention and the affirmation. So our job as parents is, and it's a never-ending job until our last breath, is how secure is my child? How self-loving is my child? How secure is my 40-year-old child? How self-loving is that child? How do I help that get better? That's our job. Ain't no other job. And if you do that right, and nobody does it absolutely right, why? Because two people who may have changed somewhat in their lives from one child to the next have child A, and then they have 2 years later, 4 years later, whatever, a minute, whatever, they have child B. And the two children coming from the same two people are completely different. And the formula that we use for child A doesn't work with child B. Hi, good morning. How are you? Wow, where are you? Oh, it's good to see you. Good to see you.
However, ambition is separate. You could have overconfidence. Doesn't make you ambitious.
So I'm going to disagree with you on this one. All right, we could disagree on one. I'm going to disagree with you on this one. And by the way, to Mark's point, the ability to listen, who can listen? A person who knows who he is, a person who has a resilient sense of self. So tell me what I thought was right for the last 20 years or 10 years or 5, whatever, is wrong completely. I'm completely okay with that because I have an absolute sense of clarity and confidence in me. So the Hakadosh Baruch Hu says as following, Ubelev as follows, Ubelev kol chacham lev natati chokhmah. Again, we say this in slightly altered versions, a little less than 30 times, around the area of building the Mishkan, the tabernacle, right? That's where we say it. And he's talking to all of those who were involved in building the tabernacle, right? Who had absolutely limited, if any, artisanal skills while they were working as slaves in Egypt. How is it that a handful of months later, they're crafting this incredibly complex, artful, several objects that make up the Mishkan? How is it possible? So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, if you make the effort to bring the Chokhmah in, I will compound it. Along the lines of how Mark was
It's like
explaining.
his tadrut.
Right, but
That's
it goes
similar?
like this. Let's be very clear. Person learns, and I ordered these sources in a particular order, right? A person puts in the consistent learning, right? So the person learns day by day by day by day by day, and he's on it, and he takes the notes and he records the ideas. This way it's imprinted on his memory. So he, based on his efforts, goes like this, right? And then every so often, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives him a pop, an unearned pop, where you see that the chokhmah that you amassed, right? Where you learned about these areas. So you should be able to move across information back and forth like this, from here to here. Suddenly you could go to here. But 1 second, you didn't earn that. That's right. That's your unearned bonus that HaKadosh Baruch Hu commits to give to the person who's building his or her chokhmah. Do it, pop. do it, do it, do it,
That's true.
do it.
That's true.
Continue, you see it,
Yes,
right?
it's
You
very-
literally
you
see it.
Well, you know what, learning should be a curve that goes like this, right?
That's right.
Right, but it's not. Curving goes like this.
That's right. Beautiful.
get this.
Every
It's
so
a step. All of a
often,
sudden you
you're
get a
gonna
pop.
say, you're gonna
Wow, how'd
scratch your
that
head,
happen?
right? Where did it come from?
Yeah.
It's unearned, but it's guaranteed. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, make the commitment to be a chacham, to build chokhmah, and the most effective way to do it is with consistency, baby steps. It's only about baby steps. Then to your point, David, you will be going like this and you'll get a pop. You'll be going like this, you'll get a pop. So the pop goes two ways, right? It goes that you have an awareness of these areas, but suddenly that area will become so pashut and simple and seemingly, piggybacking on the other one where you never looked at that before. But even more so to David's point, where you're going like this in terms of the complexity of what you're learning. So when we sharpen the mind with chokhmah, we're adding knowledge and we're adding the ability to understand more complex knowledge. Two things are happening, right? At least in most classes, most teachers should be focused on those two things. A, giving you more content. B, challenging a person with more complex content so you sharpen the mind as well to be able to understand things that are more complex. And an educator should look at his or her process saying, everybody is here, and in X months or years, I want to get them over here. I'm not thinking about strictly what I'm teaching tomorrow. I'm thinking about where I believe this person or this group of people can be X amount of months, or in certain cases, years from now. And I'm going from here and I'm going back. Good. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes this remarkable commitment to us to give us this unearned bonus of more information and the ability to take down more difficult information.
So it's like you're building the foundation. So you're building the foundation, and so the building, being you, the person, is going to be stronger as as time goes on. The foundation is everything. The foundation of learning is the most important thing in your life. Period. End. Great.
But
Right.
you know what, Mark? I would remove the word foundation. I would just call it the learning. I would
Okay.
remove the word foundation because everything serves as a foundation for the idea that came the next day. Right.
Okay.
And that's why Torah learning is a daily thing. We don't have 2 semesters, so to
But-
speak, in Torah learning, right? We're never off, right?
But-
People, yeah.
Isn't learning building a foundation though, Ricky?
And so,
do-
I want to tell you, I'd rather not look at it that way. I'd rather look at it as a perpetual growth process. I
Foundation
don't
continues to be
like to
built.
distinguish between a foundation and then something beyond the foundation, because then I'm creating this sort of artificial separation. And everything, as you know,
Foundation has
because
to
you're
expand.
involved in with people this way and in your own learning and your own guiding and teaching, everything is a foundation for the next thing.
As you're
So-
building, the foundation is also broadening.
It's going this
It's never,
right.
you're never totally.
So I would rather
Foundation's
not
never
use,
solid.
I'd rather not use that word because everything is dynamic. And by the way, Mark, to your point, and I'm going to go right at it for a minute, if we start to identify X as a foundation, then that becomes rock solid as a foundation should, then we have a problem in Torah learning. Because what you're going to find is that sometimes you get to a point where what you learned back there, you turn it totally on its head. And we do that all the time. And that's why it's so exciting, right? It happens all the time, right? It happens in halakha, with certain issues. It happens in understanding something. As time goes on and we become more knowledgeable and HaKadosh Baruch Hu reveals more. So rather than establishing a hard and fast foundation, it's a very dynamic, constant process of an idea touching an idea, touching an idea, touching an idea. And one other point on this, the term anav, touched on it briefly when we first started talking. What does the term anav mean? It doesn't mean humble. What does the term anav mean? Come on, what does the term anav mean? Okay, let's say it means humble. Let's say it means humble. Huh? It means strong, beautiful. What does it mean strong to do? By the way, a humble person is strong, but I don't like to do.
Restraint, that's.
Okay, so that's why I don't like the term humble. No, okay, that's why I like the term anav. It means strong. Strong in what way? We say Moshe Rabbeinu was the paradigm, the epitome of anav, right? Right. What else? What else? What else does it mean?
Knowledge.
Huh? Sam, Pablo, anav, let's go.
North.
What is anav? When we say a person is anav, what does that mean?
Willing to listen,
Why is he willing to listen?
because it's showing that he's open to understand from everybody.
Beautiful. Why? You're right. Why is he open to everybody? Perfect. Why? Why is he open?
To share knowledge, to get information from them, be
Excellent.
willing to accept whatever they say. Be
Perfect.
honest.
That's right. So go back to Joey's point. An anav is a very strong person, a person who is a perpetual learner. His ability to perpetually learn comes from his sense of self and absolute sense of confidence. Moshe was a warrior. We did a thing once. We went through Sefer Shemot and just highlighted, and then went to Bimidbar, and we highlighted the events in Moshe Rabbeinu's life against the backdrop of the pasuk that Moshe Rabbeinu was the most anav person, and he was. He was a warrior. He was a fighter. He challenged and beat the greatest monarch and monarchy in the world with a stick in his hand, nothing more, right? He rallies a people that are desperate and broken and destroyed after 200 plus years of slavery. He deals with their rebellions over and over. He challenges HaKadosh Baruch Hu when HaKadosh Baruch Hu says that is asli, I've had it with these people. He challenges HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So when we say anav and we define it as humble, we put in our minds somebody meek, right? But when we say anav and we understand it, as my dear friend who I never see, big shot, he's out here now. When we say anav, and we understand that that sense of being an anav comes from confidence, security, love of self. So now you can be a perpetual student. You're not afraid to learn. You're not afraid to turn an idea upside down. You're not afraid to abandon something that made absolute sense yesterday because you have such a resilient sense of self. Who cares? You know what? I thought this, that, and that was right for the last 40 years. Guess what? I learned today, this minute, that I misunderstood it. Great, let's go. It's the antithesis of I am who I am, you can't change me, and all those kind of things. So the Chacham is a person who's constantly growing. The Chacham is a person who's constantly building. When the Chacham is an Anav, when the Chacham is an Anav, it means that he or she has the resilience, the self-love, the self-confidence to be a perpetual student. It's, they did that deal. Remember the book a number of years ago, Who Moved My Cheese? Okay, sold millions and millions of copies, right? What was it about? It was about a person or developing the ability to be a change master, to be a change leader, to be just a person
As
who could
situations
be
change.
changed, right? So how can I embrace change? If I'm totally confident, great. Oh, you know what? I thought this was a mahalach for the last 10 years, for the last 10 minutes. You know what? I'm going to totally turn it on its head. Isn't that great? Isn't that great? That comes from chokhmah, from having this broad and deep ability of understanding that's perpetually growing. And then you become resilient and so strong. You become incredibly open and curious and wondrous. And the worst thing that a person could say is, I am who I am. Don't change me. This is who I am. That's the antithesis of this. What we are based on, what Torah and Torah learning and Torah people are based in is great.
People
Let's go.
like to situate you as who you are.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They like to
But
keep
they
you in
have
that
to
spot.
want it.
Huh?
You
Exactly.
know, all the building, this, you could put them in the perfect situations to great teacher, great this, that, but if they don't want it. then
That's right.
they're
You're
not-
absolutely right.
it's-
Yep.
Well, that's the will.
That's the
You have to
emotional,
want it.
that's the.
That's the
lesson.
emotional side, right? Beautiful. Baruch Adonai. Mark, thank you.
Ricky, thank you.
Have a great day.
Talk about it.
Thank you.